If you're new to my channel, make sure to like and subscribe to continue receiving great reviews. Welcome to this Funnel Building 101 Member Spotlight. My guest today is known as a go-to guide to create high performance and extremely effective results in your life. After going broke and literally homeless 3 times with his wife and 3 kids in his pursuit to launch a nonprofit to change the world, he was heartbroken, exhausted, and angry at God and the world. Bitter, he decided to go all in on discovering the truth about success at the convergence of the world of wealth, freedom, and impact. And then after a roller coaster of emotions and more failures than successes, but within just a few years, he now owns a multi-million-dollar business. He lives in an ornate mansion. He's a best-selling author, a world-class speaker, an undefeated MMA fighter, and a highly sought-after leader in the entrepreneur community. He speaks internationally to help audiences everywhere break past their self-imposed limitations, become the best version of themselves, and live a life of impact and freedom. So, without further delay, let's welcome to the stage Mr. Joseph Aaron.
What's up, everybody? Good to see you all.
Awesome, Joseph. Hey, it's super awesome, super great to see you, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to bring you on today. Know you're a very busy man, and I'm super looking forward to just you sharing your message with our audience out there today. I have to share with you, though, that I am a super big fan. All right?
Okay, let's go. Me and Mark hanging out, but we're gonna throw down for everybody else. We're gonna give all of you listening tons of value, and hopefully change your world. So.
All right. Oh man. Ooh, that's good. Now I've seen you on stage at Funnel Hacking Live just this past year. I've known you since before then because I followed much of your journey and got a copy of the book, of course, which you co-authored with Eileen Wilder. I must say that just following and consuming your content has made a huge impact on me, and it's been life-changing. You could say transformational even.
Good.
So glad we got this opportunity to share your words of wisdom and your knowledge and experience with an even greater audience out there. So for those of there that aren't as much of a geek as I am, though, let's let everyone out there watching and listening know, who is Joseph Aaron, and how did you become the go-to guy for just creating this mass movement of speakers that are able to crush it on stage doing 6 and 7 figures?
Well, honestly, I'm honored to talk to all of you today and really help you, because it was a few years ago really that we realized I really finally for the first time understood the power of words. And more important than words is the ability to communicate in such a way that uses words to create desire and to create transformation. And that is a skill that is very difficult to value, because people have become president with words, right?
Yes.
People have become mega millionaires with words. And even if they're not a business leader and they just learn the power of words, they can use words well to sell other people's products. So you don't need to be, a billionaire thinking or Elon Musk. Words have power. And yeah, so for me, I started off as a movement leader who wanted to change the world of students. I wanted to help students not be drug addicts, alcohol addicts, dysfunctional family lives, and all the things that happen in our lives. I found that much of it starts when they're kids, when they're teenagers, and they make these huge mistakes, and the rest of their life they're trying to catch up from the stars they created in high school or in college. And so I created a movement to help stop the problem before it started, and we were having lots of success, and it was blowing up like crazy, but we kept running out of money. Kept running out of money. You need money if you're going to make a difference.
Yeah.
You're right. I like to say there's a codependent relationship between impact influence, and income. And
Impact.
I was making a deep impact and a widening influence, but the problem was I didn't have the income to support the widening influence. And so ultimately it caved in. And that's what I mean by codependent. And so now I'm on a mission to change the world by multiplying movements that matter. And the way I do that is by helping them monetize their movements so that they can get their messages out to a wider audience that's influence and impact them in a deeper way. And so now, as a result of starting to learn entrepreneurship and money and speaking, I now have all three pieces of the puzzle that I need to actually do what I need to do to change the world to feel like the way I feel called to. And many of you listening, probably like for most people, I think when they imagine themselves changing the world, for all of you listening, like if you were to imagine yourself changing the world, close your eyes, imagine it. What do you see? And for most people, their answer is, I see a crowd. They're standing on a stage and they see a crowd. And it's because you have a message that matters. And so it would behoove you, right, to become effective and eloquent at communicating that message so you can create desire and transform the lives you were called to transform. That's what I'm about.
I can definitely relate to that. But you've got this story, Joseph, from starting with nothing.
Yeah.
Starting with nothing. And I know that there are some people out there.
I can beat that. I had less than nothing. I was in debt beyond my nothing.
You know, I've got to ask, you know, because a lot of people that have nothing, they also have a desire too.
Yeah.
But you know, what's that one thing that someone who is out there listening that might be at that point that says, I'm right where Joseph was when he started his journey. I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And I want to get to that something. Are you enjoying this video? Now's the time to smash that heart button and hit the subscribe. What are you waiting for? You'll be glad you did. Now back to the video. Late to that. But you've got this story, Joseph, from starting with nothing.
Yeah.
Starting with nothing. And I know that there are some people out there.
I can beat that. I had less than nothing. I was in debt beyond my nothing.
You know, I've got to ask, you know, because a lot of people that have nothing, they also have a desire too.
Yeah.
But you know, what's that one thing that someone who is out there listening that might be at that point that says, I'm right where Joseph was when he started his journey. I've got nothing.
Yeah.
And I want to get to that something.
Well, I hope for your sake that you're not where I was.
Okay.
Because I mean, it is not a fun place to be. It's you know, it's interesting. We use the word broke when we talk about not having money. Like I was broke and I was broken because when you don't have money, you will allow yourself to devalue yourself, and you'll start questioning what you're capable of. And you'll start questioning if this is it. And in the moment, it can feel like that is the moment, and that's what the moment will always be, and the moment will never change. It's the false belief of I am what I am, and that's all that I'll be. When the reality is, like, you can become a version of yourself that you cannot currently imagine. Can I say it again?
Yes.
You can become a version of yourself that you cannot currently imagine. Facts. You are not limited by who you were. You're not limited by the mistakes you were, and you're not limited by your present circumstance. And it's that belief that will allow you to step forward in hope into the version of you that you can be, that you want to be, the potential you, as they call, the awakened you, as some would say, the transformed you, the new you, right? Like all those things, like there is a new you. There is a you that you haven't met yet. And so, Mark, if I could go back to myself sitting in a country inn in suites, Broke to the point that I didn't know how I was going to pay $55 to make sure my family of five would stay in a hotel and have somewhere to sleep that night.
Wow,
Broke
exhibit
to
me
the
right
point
here.
where I stopped believing in God in that moment. That isn't true for me now, but I was like, God doesn't care. How could he allow me to be so broken and messed up when I'm doing good things for him with this
Mm,
student movement? Broke to the point where I literally just didn't want to live anymore. And the only thing that kept me alive was there's no way I can kill myself right now because I can't leave my three children and my wife stranded with a $55 bill for somewhere to live tonight. And that's all that kept me.
whew, that's deep.
That's all that kept me. So I know the bottom. I know the bottom. And the short answer is there's really only two things you need to succeed.
Okay.
Two. And I could actually get it down to one. I'll show you how in a second. But there's two basic things that you need to succeed, to become the version of you want to be.
Mm,
And I'll just give them to you right now. It's belief and skills.
mm,
Belief and skills. And I could really eliminate skills because skills can be bought.
mm.
I can buy the skill, right? Because I can have somebody else do the skill that I don't have, which is what most of the smart and very effective people in the world do. And so really what it comes down to is belief, which is
Woo.
why someone I remember who I love and adore said, if you can believe, all things are possible to him that believes.
Oh man.
Because it's not until you actually believe that you will act.
Huh,
And you don't really believe if you have not acted. The measure of belief is action.
huh, huh. Ooh, wow. Okay.
And so if you don't believe that you can create, for example, for me, my early goal was $100,000 a month. If you don't believe that you can create that, then you will never act towards it. Jesus said it this way. He said, if you ask, you receive. If you knock, the door will be open. If you seek, you'll find. But some of you aren't asking because you don't believe that if you ask, it's even possible to receive that. Some of you aren't knocking because you don't even believe that that amount of money or that possibility stands behind that door. You're not seeking because you don't believe it's even there to be found. And that's the lie. And your
Right.
lack of belief causes a lack of action. Your lack of belief won't even allow you to step into those things. So I'm doing things today, Mark, in my life that are
Uh-huh.
smaller than what I'm capable of. Why? Because I'm only acting to the level that I'm capable of believing for.
What? You're
That's
acting to oh, yeah.
right.
Whoa. Yeah. That's crazy you say that. That's crazy you say that because you see you didn't see the level that you are right now
Right.
when you were in that situation, but then you
No.
had this belief, and now you're at a level of belief, but there's even a higher belief where you could be.
Well, think about like, for example, I'm working on things to do $100 million a year. Right. And so like next year, we take on 10 total clients, each of which I'm confident will get us $10 million in total revenue. So that's the goal for me for next year with one of our businesses. And when we do that, right, it's like when I'm doing that, it's because I believe that my current skill set and my current infrastructure and all the resources I have make it possible for me to do that. It's the only reason I would pursue it because I believe it's possible. At the same moment,
Mm-hmm,
there's
mm-hmm.
billionaires like Elon Musk who wouldn't waste their time with $100 million a year. And
True.
I haven't done $100 million. I'm not claiming that. I'm saying that's the next step, right? It's like, it's coming, but Elon Musk wouldn't waste his time with $100 million a year. Cause I think it takes him like, I don't know, 10 minutes to do that. I'm just probably not, but you know what I'm saying? Right. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
why? Well, he's believing for even higher level things. Have you noticed like someone like Elon Musk, have you
Uh-huh.
noticed everything he does is attached to some significantly higher vision? For example, he
Uh-huh.
decided to build Tesla. Why? Because he wanted to solve the problem of like renewable energy and carbon and all the things that are going on in the world there. Then he builds SpaceX. And it's like, why SpaceX? Because he wants to have a solution for Earth in case we mess it up, that we have another planet that we can go to. Whatever, whether you're on board with that or not, like it is high. And then you look at his recent Twitter acquisition. It's like, what is he doing? And he's like, we need a place where freedom of speech is protected in America. And that's the argument. Now, some people don't think he's doing that. Some people don't think he is. But here's the point. The point
Uh-huh.
is he's always attaching it to a higher vision that's bigger than him. He's going after something with belief at a level that I know I am not believing for. How do I know?
Uh-huh.
Because I'm not operating that way. I'm not acting on it. Because
Ugh.
action is the test of true belief.
Wow, wow. I could go into so much more about how you put that belief in someone. How are you able to go from having no belief to having belief? Hey, are you enjoying this video? Well, now's the time to smash that heart button and hit the subscribe. What are you waiting for? You'll be glad you did. Now back to the video.
Well,
Um,
I think they dovetail in because with anything that you do, right? There must be belief. You're not operating in it if you don't believe you can do it. You wouldn't waste your time, right? And so
yeah.
if you want to be an entrepreneur, for example, right, and you really want that, just because you want something doesn't mean you believe for it. How do I know? Because you're still working in the job, and you're
True.
like, I wanna be an entrepreneur, but I want the safety net over here. Da, da, da. And I'm not. There's nothing wrong with that. Like that's not. I'm just using an example. It's like
Mhm.
your belief is defined by your actions, and if you're not doing it, then you're not believing for it. You're merely wishing for it. And so this is true in speaking. Why is it true in speaking? Because
Mhm.
when I speak to an audience, one of my jobs, one of my most important jobs, is to instill belief about the possibility as real for them.
Ah, there we have it right there. You you are able to through through the medium of speaking or
Yep.
through the medium of words.
Yes, sir.
And you said it right at the top of when we started, the
Hmm.
words. And that's what the great speakers do. That's what the orators do. And I've
Yeah.
always known the importance of words. Words can move mountains.
Yes. Yes.
And so
Can
I
I just
run.
talk to the person though who doubts what you just said? Because it's so good, Mark. You nailed it. Like words can move
Yes.
mountains, and they're like baloney. Like that's nice. Like that's nice. Like fairy dust idea, but I've never seen a word move a mountain. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like words are moving mountains even today, right now. And they're like,
Oh,
what are you talking about? And it's like, well, by words, like everything that's created is created with words,
yes.
right? And so we see this in the biblical story example, but there's whether you believe the biblical story or not, there's a truth to it that transcends whether it's whatever people want to say. I personally believe it. You all probably know that if you know me, but I'm like, okay, look, when God makes the heavens and the earth, he begins with imagining the world he wants to create.
Hmm.
In John chapter 1, when it speaks of the beginning, it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Well, the ancient Greek word for word is logos, or
Laga.
logos, people say, right? And that means the thought or plan as it existed in the mind of God. I was a philosophy major and a Greek minor almost at Villanova.
Okay.
So it's like, so in the beginning, it was said God had a plan. God had a thought or imagination about the world he wanted to create, right? Okay.
Oh,
So everything you create begins in the imagination. So if I want to move a mountain, I imagine the mountain not being there. Well, have we ever done that? It's like, yeah, when we want a road, we're like, oh, I don't want a mountain there. I want a road there. Right. And so what do
oh
we
yeah.
do? Right. Next thing we do is now we take our imagination and we create words. We'll do a little drawing and we bring a team together. And we're like, okay, I need to blow this rock up and this rock up. And I'm going to need these trucks to take the rocks and move the rocks over here because I'm going to put a road here. And we start using words to communicate the vision and the plan that was in our mind, right? And then we
Yes.
assemble people together so that they will do the work that the words told them to do and convey
Uh,
the idea of exactly what needs to happen so that we're moving mountains, so that we have roads, so that we don't have to drive over the mountain. We can just drive through it, around it, etc.
I love
Words
it.
move mountains.
I love it. It starts off as a thought, then
Yep.
those words can become a physical representation, as in on paper. Uh,
Mm-hmm. A
and
blueprint.
that's one thing that I love about the book and what you actually teach as well. I think some people look at speaking and as what you're doing, helping people to crush it on stage, and they might think that, well, this doesn't apply to me, or they're talking about just speaking on stage. But I know from experience that your your what you teach and what you've taught in this book and what you're teaching people that are crushing it, it works in the written word as well. It
Yeah.
works written, it works just any audio when you're out there speaking, just audio, and when you're speaking on video. Now, Now, for me, because I run a digital marketing agency and I'm helping authors, speakers, coaches,
Yep.
business owners to build funnels for them that will help them to grow and scale their business. I realize the importance of being able to communicate a message, whether written, audio, or visual, and not just communicate a message, but communicate a message that's not just more information. And it's a message that can transform. When someone comes into one of your presentations, one of yours, I've seen it.
Yep.
They come in one person and then they leave another person, and
Yeah.
it's so clear in the book. But could you share some of that wisdom about your words and your message creating a transformation?
Yeah, and I want to say one thing first about what you said. For those of you like, I'm not a speaker, I don't get on stages. It's like everyone's a speaker now because everyone has a platform.
Yes.
This is the stage now.
I
and
like
you record
that.
and share messages and communication to the world. And let's just consider the fact that if you're not sharing a message with the world, why? Like my mission when I use this is to add value to the world and leave it better than I came. Most people use this thing to simply entertain themselves and just chill on the couch. And it's not wrong to chill on the couch, but it's like, what are you doing? At some point, I believe, like whether you believe you're going to stand before God or you're going to be laying in a deathbed one day, you're going to ask yourself the question, what did I do with my life? Is the world better because I was here? And with the tools we have available right now, it's like, if you're not using the tools to get a message out to serve humanity, why? And if you are, and you know you have a message, and you know you want to get it out right, and you want to expand your influence, income, and impact, then you need to use words well, so that it isn't just, because guess what? There's lots of messages in the world right now. They're everywhere, right? And it's like, you need attention. And so if you're going to get attention, you're going to have to communicate well to be able to get that attention, right? And so that's the first thing. Does that make sense to everyone? Like, you, whether you know it or not, if you have a voice, you have a message. Why did God give you a voice without a message? If you have a voice, you have a message, and therefore you're a messenger. So never in the history of Earth has the value of a voice been more valuable.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Because you think about the world, right? And it's like, back in the day, even 500, 300, 100 years ago, like, how far was my voice really going to bounce? Now, maybe if you write an exceptional book that lasts a really long time, maybe then, it'll go far and wide. But other than that, I couldn't get on a microphone in 1920 even. I mean, I had what, ABC and CBS radio in the 1920s. Was there another station? There's just a couple stations. It was very difficult to get the small amount of access to get your message heard in a far and wide way, right? Versus today.
And you had to pay for access.
And you had to pay for access, right?
Yes.
And so versus today, it's like, never has the value of a voice been more valuable. Now, never has there been more people vying for the attention of humanity either. And so the valuable thing now is the voice, but the only way for the voice to be heard in a sea of voices is with excellence. Or you won't be heard, or with a message that really matters, or you won't be heard. Right. So what's the shift? Well, one of the other thing that we know about the world today is that we're living in the information age. And so there's lots of information, and most people are being taught to speak for the purpose of sharing information. So let me ask you something. Let me give you an example real quick.
Okay.
Let's imagine, Mark, that I said, hey, I'm going to sell you an apple, right? You're hungry. You like apples. You'd like to buy an apple. And maybe we're 100 miles from the next closest food place. I have one apple, right? And I'm like, it's $10. And you're really hungry. Now, you're really hungry. You want the apple. It's $10. You're like, Joe, come on, man. $10. Come on. And I'm like, bro, it's the only apple in 100 miles. The only food in 100 miles. $10. And you're
10
like,
bucks.
man, supply and demand. I'm hungry. I got a lot more than $10. Here you go, Joe. Here's $10. Sweet. Got it. Now watch
Mm,
this. Now, same scenario. And let's say I have 100 apples, right?
mm,
Or it's
yeah.
me and 100 other people have an apple. And I say $10.
Yeah.
You can
That's a
go to the
lot.
next person. You can go to the next person and be like, he said 10. You do 5? Somebody over there, I'll do 3. I'll do, yeah. And you'll probably get an apple for $2. Why? There
Mm,
were more apples because an
mm.
apple is a commodity. Everybody say
Ooh,
commodity. It's a
commodity.
commodity, right? And
Woo!
so if information is the most available thing in the world, it's like there's lots of apples everywhere. Why would anyone pay you for information? It's prevalent and accessible everywhere,
Ooh,
right?
yes.
Right? And so what do you need to do? You need to not
Be a
be a
commodity.
commodity.
Don't
So
be a commodity.
I don't, while I do convey information, while that's a part of the process, the goal for me and the goal for any great speaker who's going to be $1 million speaker is going to be not to create more information and knowledge for the person who's listening, but to create
Uh-huh.
a transformation for the person. So while everyone else is selling
Woo!
information, I'm selling transformation.
That's powerful.
And so when they feel and experience the transformation, guess what they want more of? The
More.
transformation, right?
Ooh,
And
yes.
and when they look around, there's only one apple of transformation. There's millions of apples of information, but there's only one apple of transformation. And it's like, this is how you stand out in a noisy world. And also, this is how you do your job appropriately, because if you have a voice and you have a message and you have a messenger, the point of your message is to transform the thinking, beliefs, values of people so that their lives can be changed. And if you're not doing that, then you're not even doing the job. You're just a voice in the wind.
Ooh, you stand out by you're not a commodity because most speakers out there are not giving that
Correct.
transformation.
Yep.
They're giving, they're like the apple in a
Mhm.
sea of people selling apples.
Yep.
Oh, man, that was golden. That was golden, Joe. That
I'm
was
trying,
golden.
boss. I'm trying.
No. Oh my gosh, you said so much in there. It's like I'm just like processing and just enjoying it. But let me ask you because you talked about desire and you talked about someone out there that you said if you're not putting your message out there, then why aren't you putting your message out
Right.
there? Um, for someone out there, what would you say to someone who feels that calling, that wants to be, that get their message out there? They see the vision, they feel the tug, they
Yeah.
hear the voice, but something is holding them back. What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think is holding people back?
Oh, there's only one thing holding them back. Just one. And it is I counted it once. So when I was going through that season where we were broke and homeless multiple times and wanting to change the world but couldn't figure out money, here was the
Mm-hmm.
biggest, I look back and my failure to recognize, that's a wonderful question. My failure to understand this one thing, sorry about that, this one thing held me up. You ready for it? Here's
Yeah,
how long this held me up for.
I'm on the edge of my seat.
10 years. I hope you're paying attention. 10 years. This can save you if you do this. You're like, there's something I feel like is holding me back, right?
Mm.
If you feel like something's holding you back, I'm going to tell you what it is right now. For most people, it's not 100% the case. Obviously, there can be scenarios or intuitions. But in general, for most people I talk to who are not speaking, they're not using their voice to monetize their life, they're not using their voice to impact more lives. The reason is because they have not decided
Oh,
to be the version of themselves they want to be.
oh, that
There
I
is,
just felt that right here.
yeah, there are
Oh,
way too many
one word.
wishful thinkers. There's too many dreamers, but not enough creators.
Mm.
And the difference between a dreamer and a creator is a decision.
Who
Because
decide?
the word decision, as you've heard me share, is like it comes from the Latin word incision, which means to cut. I learned this from Tim Ferriss. And then you put the word D in front of it. D is a prefix meaning off. So a decision means to cut off. And so when you decide to be the version of yourself you want to be, you literally can imagine that version of you. You know what that version of you's life looks like. You know how much money that version of you makes. You know what the family life of that you looks like. You know where you live. You know that you, but you have to decide, which feels hard. It feels scary because when you decide to be a you that you want to be, you're also simultaneously deciding not to be an infinite number of possibilities of you that you could be.
Oh, wow, 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 wow. When you decide, when you take one road, you're
simultaneously deciding not to take an infinite number of roads.
You're cutting off, an infinite number. I would say thousands, but it's more than thousands.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, because you're a creator made it in the image of God. So it's like, how many roads could you take? You can't count how many different ways. And so most people spend most of their lives, watch this, this is lack thinking. Most people spend most of their lives trying to find, you ready for it? The best way. And that's what I did for 10 years. I needed the best way. And so whenever I made a decision about who I was going to be and what I wanted to do, I would start down a road and I would experience obstacles, frustration, difficulty, discomfort. And I'd be like, this can't be the best road. There's got to be a better way. And so I'd go look for a better way. And some good marketer somewhere would sell me a better way that didn't have all the problems that I had over here. And so then I'd start going down that road. And guess what would happen when I started trying to become down that road? Just another obstacle, another struggle, another frustration, right? And it's like, oh, it can't be that way. And I lived in the dance of trying to find the best way. And it's like, that's a problem. Just decide who you want to be. You can adjust later if you want to, but the reality is it's the decision that will take you there. And commit to it for a certain amount of time. This is what my wife did for me. She helped me decide who I wanted to be. And then she's like, you got 6 months. You're not allowed to change. And I'm like, 6 months? She's like, you can change later. But what if people think of me that way and I made the wrong decision? She's like, you got 6 months. You can figure it out. And so I did it. And it was like, that literally took me back then from 0 to 20K months when I did that back. It was 2016, 17. But like, that was the first step. It was a decision to be it. Some of you who are listening right now have been wishing that you could make more money. You've been wishing that you can impact more people. You've been wishing that someday you'd have so much more influence and grow it, but a wish won't get you there. You have to decide to be it. And when you decide to be it and believe you'll become it and put your heart, soul, spirit, energy, intention, and focus into becoming the version of you that you have decided to be, only then will you start moving in the direction that will get you there. But until then, there will be no movement. And the devil never says no. He just says tomorrow.
Oh, it's crazy. You just answered like 3 questions that I had in that one statement.
Yeah.
You answered 3 questions. I was going to ask you about what do you know now that you didn't know back then when you were struggling?
Here, number one thing is the number one thing I did not know, which is so silly. And forgive me, but this is you asked, so I'm going to tell you from my heartfelt, from my soul, what the answer to that is. Yes. And the answer is, I didn't know who I was. And what I mean by that is, the first thing God told you about you is that you're made to be like him. In Genesis chapter 1, the very first thing God tells us is, and God said, let us make man in our image and in our likeness. So in the image of God created he him. So humanity is made to be like God. And it's like, well, what does that mean? Well, the context. There's only one thing we know about God in Genesis chapter 1, and that he is the creator. So that means you are a creator. You're made to be like a creator. And we know this. Like, if anyone's ever had children, you don't have to tell kids to pick up the crayon and draw imaginary ideas on the page. They just do it. Dolphins don't do that, right? Monkeys don't do that. People do that, right? Why? Because we are image bearers of something significantly other than us, right? And so once you understand that, I'm not trying to preach here, but this is my point, right? An amen? Right? Yeah, can I get an amen? But what I'm saying is once you understand that you are made a creator, then you will understand, if I am made for this, then what do I want to create? the limitations disappear because it's not based on resources that are available to me. It's based on the resourcefulness to create something with the resources available to me. And so old me, who was struggling and crying and wanted to, scream at God and blame him for all my problems, suicidal, laying in the country and in suites, old me was like, I don't have what I need, right? I lack the resources. God has been mean to me. New me understands that I had everything I needed in every single moment of my life to go to the next level immediately and instantaneously as soon as I decided to be it. If I could go back to that version of me, I would slap that man so hard. I'd smack him like, I just want to rear back and smack him, right?
We're talking a full
Yeah. Because like the relationships that I had then, Mark, were some of the same relationships that I have now. And I now know from my understanding of the skills and belief that I have now, that there were relationships available to me that had the resources available to me that would have been happy to collaborate with me if I would have been seeking for those opportunities, if I would have been knocking on the door for those, if I had been asking, I would have been receiving, but I didn't even believe enough to ask. Like I said earlier, I didn't believe enough to knock. The resources were available, right? It wasn't a lack of resourcefulness. I wasn't who I needed to be to manage and multiply the resources that were already available to me. And once you understand, I always have everything I need at every level and at every moment. And you're like, yeah, Joe, well, I want to buy a jet, but I don't have $85 million. I get it. Right? But there are resources available to you so that you could immediately go to, say, $1 million a year, and then 2 million a year, and then 3 million. There's stages and levels. Because a lot of times, like belief, it's difficult. I'll give you this. And it's not an excuse. It's just the reality of humanity. Like it's difficult to jump from this level all the way up to this level in one shot. If you could believe enough, you can. And there's people who've done it. You look at the Elon Musk of the world in the business world as an example. Like second company, right, was PayPal, and boom, exit, right? And then he did 2 more companies, boom, right? And it wasn't easy along the way, but he believed enough to go after that level of thing. Most people have to say, okay, I'm here, I want to go here. And so for me, the first time, Mark, I was like, you've seen this book before and what I did, but I was like, how do I make 100,000 a month? That was, and I was making 2,000 a month then. And I'm like, how do I do that? And so what I did was I took on the thinking of billionaires. So I read billionaires, and there was this billionaire. He said, if I have a goal, here's how I think about it. Most people think, how do I do that over many, many years? I just ask, what would it take to do it in 6 months?
That's how millionaires think.
Billionaires.
Yep. They think
he was a billionaire, right? Peter Thiel. And I was like, oh, so I shut the book and I started thinking, okay, if I had to make $100,000 in 6 months, see, that eliminates all the excuses. And it's just like, if I had to, if my daughter was kidnapped and the bad guys had her, and the only way that they would release her is if I made $100,000 for real, and I couldn't tell anyone that my daughter was kidnapped, and I couldn't use anything that I don't already have, I had to work the way that I am right now. What would I do if I must make $100,000 as soon as possible? And the quality of your questions will determine the quality of your answers. And then you'll start working with your brain through it, and you go, like that would probably work. That might just do it. Right. And you're like, before that moment, you're like, well, I don't have it. So you ask me, like, what's the big revelation that I've had? It's that I am who God said I am. I'm a creator made in the image of God. And so when I walk in that belief, then it's like, I have to ask the question, just like God did when he made the worlds, like, what world do I want to make? Because whether you realize it or not, you have made your world.
Oh my God.
You've made it with your beliefs. You've made it with your fears. You made it with your limits, right? You create. And that's not to say that other people haven't come into your world and done you wrong and hurt you and all the terrible things that happened to me. I was abused as a child. Like, I get it, right? People can come into your world and do it, but it's like, even with all of that, I can either be like, oh, my life is bad because I was abused, or I can be like, no, I was abused, but I'm a creator made in the image of God. And based on that identity, what do I want to create? And you got to decide.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Just hearing how you have been able to go from being homeless to now just multiple awards for earning over $1 million in several businesses. But not only have you done this yourself, but you laid out a process in this book for doing that. What, as far as the process, how much can you share with those? Because someone out there might be listening and say, and you even mentioned it yourself, that you're not saying that it's easy to get from, your belief level from here to here, but you have done it. And then you've also distilled a process in this book.
Yeah. Well, it's in a book. So now it isn't out there to the world right now. There's only one way to get it, and I'll tell you how to get that in a second. But I will tell you this. If your voice matters, right? And if your message matters, then one of the saddest things that can happen is if you have a good message that's helpful for people, that your message doesn't get heard. There's an infinite number of amazing messages that have never been heard. One of the saddest things is to pick up a good book somewhere in a library and read it and be like, that was so good. And then be like, how come I never heard of it? And like 10 people heard of the book, right? And it's like, that's not good, right? Even though you made a good thing, no one heard it. No one experienced it, right? And so you gotta be able to create it and get the word out in a big way. And so what we discovered is that the best in the world, and the best, not only present day, but in the past, who've ever gotten their word out in a big way, we started looking at the best speakers, the ones who get the most views on YouTube, who have churches, who have tens of thousands of people coming every single week, right? And it's like, if you can fill a room with tens of thousands of people every single week, you're doing something right? Yeah. You may disagree with their doctrine or whatever, but there's some skills that are involved in there, right? That have something
to learn,
right? You look at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s of the world. You look at Winston Churchill, people who change the world with their words. And what you'll find is, and this is what Eileen and I did, we went deep, like, how are they doing this? I mean, they have great content, obviously, but how are they saying it so that it gets heard versus other people who have good messages who we've never heard of? What's the difference? And what we found is that there is a consistent framework. There are consistent ingredients put in different sequences that move audiences. It stirs audiences. It excites the imagination and emotions of audiences. And so we kept seeing it again and again. We're like, wait, oh, yeah, so-and-so. Oh, he did that too. Oh, that's how he says it. And we started realizing there's a way. Somebody say there's a way, right?
There's a way.
There's a way to say stuff that will get attention. There's a way to say stuff that will incite the imagination. There's a way to say stuff that will get people excited and emotionally engaged with your content, with your message, with what you're trying to say. And so we started looking, and again and again and again, it was the same ingredients. And so we tried to figure out, how can we teach today's audience kind of a simple framework that has the ingredients. The sequence can be changed around here and there, and we talk about that in the book, but just a real simple sequence where it's like, if you just started doing this, you would immediately be in the top 3 to 5% of speakers in the world. And so that's what we put in the book, and we call them speaker bits. The reason we call them bits, BITS. The reason we call them bits is because Eileen, we comedians are really great at getting engagement, right, back and forth, and laughter from the crowd, and so comedians call their things bits, and so we thought that was genius, and so we're like, okay, we'll call it bits, but our bit stands for belief and identity transformation system, and that's what we're trying to do when we speak, is we're trying to shift the beliefs and identity of the people who are in the audience, not in some sort of manipulative, evil way, but literally to invite them into the story to come to whatever conclusions they think make sense, so that by the end, they're coming to the same conclusions that we are, if they're obvious things that they should know and that are true, and be like, oh, and now they are a tightly held belief by them instead of something we try to push on them. Can I say something about speaking? You guys want a little speaker?
Yes, go.
This is a big one. This is a big one. Most speakers try and tell you what to think. And so they'll say, they'll state a fact as if, like, I am the king on high. Here is my fact, right? We have all learned that facts sometimes need fact checked. And
Yes, they
sometimes
do.
fact checks need fact checks wherever you stand on all that, right? And it's like, okay,
Uh,
so if you state a fact, people will doubt you. So I'll
yeah.
give you a little rule to think about when you're speaking. And this is
Mm-hmm.
an assumption that we use that serves us well. The conversion rates that we have in our rooms are significantly higher than people who don't speak this way. And this is the
Oh,
reason why. It's because people believe
uh-huh.
97% of what they say
Oh,
and
yeah.
3% of what you say. Okay?
Say that
They believe
again.
people believe 3% of what you say and 97% of what they say. Right? Why? Because they've met a snake oil salesman. They've seen them on the internet, right? They've
Mm-hmm.
met a liar, right? And most of them, I say, why don't people believe 100% of what they say? Because people know that they lie to themselves. Right? And they know they lie to themselves because they're like, I'm going to wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow. And then they wake up at 8 and they're like, I lied to me. They don't even
I
trust
see.
themselves, right? That's why they
Oh,
go, I
yeah.
don't know if I can do this, Joe, right? Why don't you believe you can do it? Because you probably said you were going to do some other things and didn't do them. So you don't trust you. But it's not as bad
Right.
as the trust that you don't have for somebody else. So they believe 97% of what they say and 3% of what you say.
You
And so
lied
your
to yourself.
job as a speaker is to get them to give your presentation back to you.
Huh. And they hear themselves saying it, so they're more likely to believe it.
Exactly. Right.
Wow.
And so the
Wow.
speaker bit framework is designed to do just that, to take literally any core point or idea that you may need to help an audience with who they may think this way, but the truth is this way. And you take them through stories. We call it powerful storytelling frameworks to grow your influence and create wealth from speaking. It's look, when Jesus wanted to make a point, he told a story
Yep.
because
Yes.
stories allow your audience to actively engage in the material and be in it. Have you ever been at a movie and you're sitting there in the movie and it comes on, you're kind of in the movie theater, you're eating your popcorn, and then all of a sudden the movie starts playing and you forget you're in the theater and you're
Yes.
just in the movie, right? Well, you
Mm-hmm.
want to do the same thing as a speaker, because as a speaker, if you use the right frameworks, they'll forget that you're talking and they'll literally just be in the story. And when they're in the story, they get to vicariously experience the experience that you tell in the story that will lead them down the path to help them come to the same conclusions that you already came to because of your experience in the story. And so now they're deciding what's right and true instead of hearing you tell them what's right and true. They are deciding what's right and true. And then they will speak what is right and true because you will ask them what they think,
Uh-huh.
and they will give you the answer that you wanted them to have because you created it using speaker bits.
I think I'm gonna rewind that and re-listen to it a couple of times, Joseph. Because you put so much power-packed information
Yeah.
about really, okay, so time has gone by. I got so many more questions I would love to ask, but I know your time is valuable. But you really surmise the book here, which is powerful storytelling frameworks
Yeah.
to grow your influence and create wealth. And I was just reading one part here in the book when you talked about
Hit me.
inspiring people isn't enough. Teaching people isn't enough. They need leadership and support. They need a clear path for committing to the next steps.
Yes.
And what I want to say is I have one more question for you, but before I get to my very last question, I want you to ask where can we go to connect with you? What's the best place to go to consume your content? Get a copy of that book and engage with you.
Many times people will come to an interview like this and it'll be great. Like, I hope you enjoyed this interview, and we got one more big thing that I want to hit for you. But
Okay.
have you ever been to an interview and like you listen to it and you're like, oh, that was so good, and I'm going to totally go do that, and then I'm going to start implementing that, and then like a couple days goes by and you kind of like listen to maybe some other stuff that happens on the internet or maybe get distracted by kids or life or business or all the things, and then like the thing that you meant to do that would have been valuable, that probably would have impacted your life in a significant way, all of a sudden is a forgotten memory, if that. that ever happen? You know what I'm talking about?
Oh,
Right.
yes.
And that happens so much with people that we decided, look, to solve that, we don't want you to go away and then just like let it be a fleeting thing. We want to make it real for you. And so that's why we created the $1 Million Speaker Book. And when you get the $1 Million Speaker Book, what you're going to be able to do is dive deep into the principles, tactics, ideas, strategies, all the things, so that you can start getting clear on what is your message? What do you have to say to the world? What kind of world do you want to create? How can you use your voice to do that? And how can you follow the proven principles and steps that are already in here, so that you just got to like figure out what you want to say and then put it in the framework. And when you put it in the framework, the crowds will be like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. This is so good. And they'll want to work with you more. Right. And so that's why we created the $1 Million Speaker Book. It's a game changer. So far, the few people that we've allowed to read it have said it's absolutely amazing and a game changer for them. And so if you're interested in literally building $1 million business as you share your message and change the world, all you need to do is go to elitespeakerbook.com. That's elite, ELITE, speakerbook.com. And when you go there, like, there's a bunch of bonuses and stuff like that. Eileen and I actually get on in the bonus videos. We get on live and we like show examples of like different strategies and the big ideas. So you can see it on video instead of just reading about it in a book. So we got a free membership area you can go to and stuff like that. So just go to elitespeakerbook.com and yeah, it's going to be great.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I've been there, and I really like how you guys have made available a lot of the techniques for getting examples of those speakers, and showing the examples of how other speakers have put together these presentations over the year that are super impactful. I love it. And I'll make sure to put all the links around this this video somewhere so we can follow you closely, Joseph.
Let's go. I'm looking forward to hanging out with y'all and really helping. Look, if you have a message that matters, I want you to get it out in a bigger way. That's really the mission. The reality is, like, if you don't get the book, my life is not going to be impacted. But if you do get the book, your life probably will be. So I want to hear your last question.
Would you like a free copy of Eileen Wilder and Joseph Aaron's book, $1 Million Speaker? See, I got my free copy when I attended Funnel Hacking Live. And while that initial offer is over, there may still be an opportunity for you to get your free copy when you join their 5-day $1 Million Speaker Challenge, where in 5 days, Joe and Eileen will give you the step-by-step system they use to help clients sell between 100K to 1 million in days using virtual events. It's the same strategy I used just days after reading the book to crush it on stage myself. But don't take my word for it. Here's what others have said about the book. It starts with the commitment to say, I will do this. There's nothing stopping me from being $1 million speaker. I'm going to make it happen come hell or high water. If you have that attitude, there's no doubt in my mind that anybody who takes what Joe and Eileen teach has the ability to accomplish that. No doubt. Marvin Mitchell, president of Path to Prosperity. Joe and Eileen show you how to captivate your audience and take them on a mesmerizing journey using speaking strategies like nothing I've ever seen. You'll learn to leverage the transformative power of your voice and your story, and I guarantee you'll never be the same. Seyi McKinday, founder of the brand Powerhouse. And these are just a few of the raving reviews. Now, the free copy of the book offer is valid at the time of this recording, but I heard from their team that there's only a limited amount still left, so I can't guarantee how long the offer will be available. You need to check this link in the description to see if it's still available. So I apologize in advance if this offer is no longer available, to just go ahead and sign up now. All right, now let's get back to the video. Oh man, well, I see you here on the cover
Yeah,
with the suit on, but you're a sneaker guy, aren't you?
No, it's both because I don't know if I did some of you probably picked up on it, but my dad passed away in 2010, but he was one of the only, well, he was the only ordained white minister among about 2,000 black ministers.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
so
I've heard that about the story.
yeah. So I love the whole black church culture. I love church culture in general. It's fun. But especially black church culture because it's way more fun. and so
You said it in the book too.
yeah, it's way more fun. But the reason I say that is because in that culture, like suits are a big thing, and like when you speak and preach and things like that, like you wear a suit. So I love the suit culture, but it's not so much part of like the business culture of the internet and world right now. And so like I feel myself stuck between two worlds. So I usually go to either extreme. I'm either like shoes and sneaker guy or suits guy. But the reality is you just need to wrap the package in a way that is credible for people to believe you when you're speaking on stage. I mean, right now, I don't know if anyone's going to see the video, but it's like a t-shirt and a chain, and like that's enough in this world. So yeah.
Yes, I love your sneaker style.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I'm working those J's. I love the Jordans.
It's just an inspiring story that I know a lot of people can benefit from, and we'll make sure that we've got all the information for them to continue following you and having that impact. All right, Joseph?
Sounds good. Nice to see you all. See you all on the interwebs.
All right. Thanks so much. Until next time.
Bye.
If you're just starting out online, you're probably studying a lot. That's great. You're probably geeking out on all the strategies also, right? Well, that's also great. But the hardest part is figuring out how to communicate in a way that makes someone want to buy from you and how you should sell to them, right? Well, that's also what I struggled with for a while until I found the formula. So I created this free 5-day challenge called the Make More Money Marketing Challenge to get you on track with your marketing and, more importantly, the right sales scripts and processes to get it off the ground and getting people to take you up on your products, services, and your opportunities. You want to come? But there's small groups on purpose so I can answer your direct questions for 5 straight days. You can hold your spot by going to www.thementalmarketer.com/4M challenge sign up. Again, that's thementalmarketer.com/4M challenge sign up. Check the site for dates and times. I'll see you on the inside.